In this video, by popular demand, we're going back to 2018 to have a look at a Defender that was in pretty bad shape. My customers decided what to do with this car. We're not going to change the frame on it, we're going to weld it and have it sandblasted and painted. Now, I want to use this car, and I'm not showing you whose it is, and I'm not telling you how much he paid for it, but I want to show you some points to look for when buying a Defender, because from the outside, you know, imagine that with all the panels on and the paint's not bad and, you know, looks quite nice, eh? But don't be like a magpie and looking at shiny things and picking them up thinking, oh, because it's shiny it's good. Well, it isn't. The thing about a Defender is it's got an image, and you're not buying a car, you're buying an image most of the time. But there are so many problems with these cars, and principally corrosion. So on this section I'm going to show you what to look for with a Defender. Now we've got the engine out of this one, and the engine bay, although there's got some light corrosion around here, is always pretty good because it's always soaked in oil from leaking engines and gearboxes. So generally speaking, this is good. They do corrode around these front dum irons here. Places to check are in here. What you want to do is take a damn big hammer with you whenever you're going to have a look at a Land Rover, because don't be afraid to hit it, because you're going to buy it, and then when you get it home and hit it, you're going to be in tears. Outriggers, notorious. They want to be nice and, you know, clean and solid. This one's been repaired, but it's been repaired good. But whilst we're under here, look at this. All rotten. The bulkhead's got corrosion in, so it needs footwells. Not good. So let's continue on the frame and have a look around and see what needs doing. Another common area for corrosion is the rear cross member. Now this one's been replaced, but it's only had a weld here and a tack weld at the top. This is not suitable for any towing. They haven't even bolted it on, look. Very poor. So while we're at this back corner, look at this. Door, toast. Whenever it's like that, you cannot do anything with it. It's a new door. I'm not kidding you. Yes, you can buy a new skin, but it'll be rusty again in next to no time. The question is, do you want to open a box and put a new door on, or do you want to buy a skin and spend hours and hours and hours prepping up that frame, welding it up? Depends how much you charge your time, but the thing is, it's going to work out the same. It's a tough call, but I'd just put a new door on. I wouldn't even bother with stuff like that now. Let's have a look around here. Look at this. This is quite common, but it's an easy fix. It's just a little light corrosion. Land Rover in their early vehicles used to galvanise all these bits, but now they just paint them. Very common for them to start corroding. This problem here is generally because they used to have some seatbelt brackets that went inside, and they had some great big rivets on the outside of the truck. Now these have been filled in. You can see just to say from here where they were, and somebody's filled them in. But because they didn't sort of sandblast them and prime them properly, you get problems like this. And this is a typical problem when people put filler over. It swells because the water's come from the inside and it's all swelled up and it's rotten. Scrap. Well, not scrap, but this panel is, well, I suppose you could TIG weld it if you really want to do a good job of it. But not everybody's a TIG welder. And you'd have to take the whole thing down to a welding shop to get it welded, which is going to cost money. You can replace the panels. They're only available from Land Rover as far as I know. I don't think anybody is doing aftermarket panels for Defenders, so it's a genuine Land Rover. And I'd take a mattress with you because to the shop when you go and get a price, because you're going to faint when you see the price of these. The body, these cappings here, again, once upon a time were galvanised. When you see rust like this, you know it's got inside. Usually the rust out underneath. And the funniest thing is, it's always where there's a weld. Now I've come to the conclusion that these weren't sandblasted properly, from the factory, and the flux or whatever has advanced corrosion. The galvanised ones, not a problem. You could sandblast this and re-galvanise it. How long do you live? Next, let's have a look at the notorious door problem. If you're seeing problems like this, walk away from that door. It's scrap. Honestly, I keep saying this to people all over again. As soon as you see this bubbling like that, yes, but you can put a new door skin on. And I keep saying to them, yes, but it's going to come through again because the steel's rusty underneath. When you see checker plate on a car, you know that it's a sure sign that somebody's covered something up. Guaranteed. Little cluette here. See that pattern on that checker plate? That is North American checker plate. It is not UK checker plate, so somebody's put that on over here. So there's something to look for. And you can see where the corrosion's coming through here. Bad. Now I'm going to put this car on the lift so we can have a look underneath it. But like I said, this one's been done the same. Now sometimes people, you know, this door could have been really nasty. This one might have been okay, but they've matched it up with a piece of checker plate on. I don't know about that. You know, let's have a look inside this door. See, look, patch, walk away. It's either walk away or it's negotiable, because the frame could be spotless, you know, absolutely spotless, and then you get a problem like that. Negotiate $2,000 for a door. And I say that's a lot of money, but the door's expensive, the shipping's expensive, you know, especially for us in North America. So always work on that, because it's better to negotiate a higher price and then come down than start off a low price and try and work up. It doesn't always work like that. Well, we've got this door open. We can see these this C-post here is finished. That needs replacing. We can see the advanced corrosion in here. All this is corroded and rusty. Yes, it is fixable, but what cost? It's best to avoid this in the first place than buy it, okay? All you're doing is buying somebody else's problems. Corrosion, all over the place. So let's have a look through the front. What to look for. Never ever be afraid of lifting the carpets up to have a look underneath. You know, I feel so sad for this customer, because like I say, he's bought something that needs so much work. It's like a do-it-yourself project, but if you can't do it yourself, then who's going to do it? At what price? So, you know, we've got corrosion here. Here, the seat boxes are rotten. This needs replacing. This all needs sandblasting. Well, it needs replacing. You know, sometimes you get to thinking about cars, and you think, well, what am I going to keep and what am I going to replace? And you know, you're replacing about 50% of the flipping car. Yeah, dear me. So let's have a look at the bulkhead. You see, the top part of it isn't too bad, especially this side. So maybe we can, you know, I can weld that. But again, what price? Because we've got to do something with this. See, all this is all corroded. There's no strength in here. It was suggested I lift this body off, but I don't think it's really worth it. Let's have a look at the top bulkhead and where to look for. Another negotiating point is the tops of the bulkhead. It's just a really, really bad design, but I could understand it from Land Rover's point of view, how they did it, because they wanted to put a gutter on the windscreen here to stop the water running down the vents, which inevitably leak anyway, so it doesn't really matter. But they wanted to put a gutter to stop the rain coming down. The problem is, where does the rain go? It just butts up against here and tries to get out of here, so it's all bottlenecking around this area, and then it gets under this foam seal. Foam, great idea. I think it's a closed cell foam, but it's still a bad idea. But then again, what else could they use? When it's corroded like this, it's perhaps salvageable, but from experience, if I pluck the blaster on that, that's going to go through. Now there exists now a full panel to go in here. So yes, you can repair it, but how much is it going to cost? It is far better to buy something that hasn't got this corrosion on in the first place. Now we can't quite see on this side, whilst we're talking about a bulkhead, But the mountings down here for the inner wings are particularly rusty. Again, check that out. Doesn't want to be any rust at all. Rust around the towers and stuff like this. Check around this top plate because usually they're all rusted out. Yeah, have a good look at that. Let's have a look sort of under the wheel arches a little bit now and see what we can see. But I'm going to put this weekend, this is going on the lift, so we can really have a good look at it. I hope you can see that this was the bracket I was talking about. These were sort of unique to some early station wagons, and this is when it attaches to the inside on the top, then corrosion can build in. So this is where the seatbelt bolts would go through. Same here, look, the seatbelt bolts came through, and but the corresponding part on the top, which was like an anchor, well, that goes through. Station wagons. This is typical of a car that comes to me. You know, look at the rust and corrosion. Now the problem is, if I blast that, how much is going to be left of it? Look at the bolts, how do you get those out? It's time. Land Rover had inherent rust traps, this being one of them. They put two panels on there and all the mud used to build up in there, so watch for holes in top of there. These spring supports corrode out. They get built up with mud down here and they corrode, but especially watch for mud, and not for mud but for corrosion at the back of here. These go and you miss that bit, you can't quite see them. You see, you have a problem when you want to buy an old car, is taking a hammer to it is sometimes frowned upon. But just have a look, because you know, from experience again, an MOT is only worth the piece of paper it's written on, and an MOT, like an inspection from the UK, is only good for the day it was in the inspection station. It doesn't mean that 11 months later, even though it's got an MOT, it's still good. Let's have a look again under the front arches. Again, we can see it's had a new outrigger fitted, being welded on there. Check behind the outriggers. These are replacement ones, and this was more open. We'll have a better look around when we get it on the lift. But there's a hole under it for some strange reason. I think it was so you could put your hands in to put the mud flap brackets on. But there's a hole under there, so the wheel, when it goes round, is kicking mud and dirt into these, and they used to all pack up with dirt and just rust out. Again, bad idea, really bad idea. The front mounts for the springs are not really much of a problem. Again, check for corrosion here. This is where your engine number, your chassis number should be. I can't see it, but these fill up with mud and just rust out as well. Let's have another look around through the back door. The back door doesn't look too bad, but look at that, there it is. Pull all that paint off. Holes. That means a piece in there. Replace the skin, put a piece in. Have you got a good back door? Well, I don't know, because you've got to get somebody to sandblast it properly, and that's going to cost money. And painting, well, it never ends, if you see what I mean. So if you see things like that, don't be afraid to get underneath and have a good look round, because I tell you something, a sandblaster tells a different story. It never lies. You know, a little hole that's like a couple of millimetres turns out to be about a couple of centimetres in the end. So let's have a look at the insides. You can see now these brackets that I was telling you about, where you've got steel to aluminium. God, that was a nightmare. And now, look at this here. Look at this very carefully. Usually this is all covered in trims, but if we go back outside and have a look, what looks quite innocent here is a bloody nightmare here. Look at this. Where do you stop? Look, you can see the water where it's been running down, look. Can you see? This is why I wanted to do this vehicle outside, so we can get a better look at it. The windows aren't too bad for sealing, but sometimes they run over the top, and that's why it's got this little gutter here. But sometimes water gets over. But this has been running down between this body and the body capping and cause corrosion. And of course that in turn has rusted out the seatbelt mounts. Now on later models, later 300 TDIs and TD5s, they actually put a tubular type frame in there to get away from that problem. So they knew about it. Let's have a look at something else. This is one of our old favourites, the battery tray, or the battery box. I don't know if you can see down there. We've got some corrosion. The guy wants me to replace these. Big job. You've got to take the seat base out. Well, you can nowadays buy seat boxes that are not all solidly riveted together. You can put them together yourself, and they are only pop riveted in, so they're not too bad to do. But yeah, just be careful of that when you're buying a car. And the same goes for this side here. You see, look at that. It's all corroded inside there. No, just check all these things out carefully. See, this is what you typically find. The floor plate will come up to here, but these are... Let's pull this off. You see, look. I can't pull it out, but that's not too bad. But look at this here. It's all gone. This side is quite good, really. That's okay. That's salvageable. But don't be afraid of pulling the carpets off. The doors again on this side, well, they're starting to corrode and they're starting to bubble. If this was a vehicle of mine, then yes, I would probably put a steel skin on this. But again, I mean, it's been raining last night, but you can see with this where it's starting to bubble here. That means water's got down the back of here, and there's a steel reinforcement here, and that's caused that to bubble. Look for it there. You can see there, look. It's bubbling. Same here. Same here. So this car needs 5 doors on. You see, look at all the expense. The hinges on the early Defenders weren't worth putting on. They were off the old series type trucks, and well, they were rubbish. You know, even I've had replacement ones, and they're made in India now. They're absolute rubbish. So we put the TD5 styles on, which is more rounder, and they've got a little bit better bushing in. You could actually put the stainless steel ones on, but you know, you're going to have deep pockets for that. So this side doesn't seem too bad. That's what we're looking for. A little bit of rust there. Well, that's okay. We like that. And what we're looking for also, you can't really see it here because I think this has been filled over, but there should be some spot welds where this is all put together. Let's go and have a look at a car from Spain that we've got in that's only got very light surface rust, and I'll show you what it should look like. Here are the spot welds here. This shows that this hasn't had any paint on it, no filler, nothing. This is just how it came from the factory, and that's really what you want to buy. And let's have a quick look at the frame. You can see there, this is what you want to buy, something that's just got a little bit of light corrosion on. Look at this. You can see here, there's the stamping of the number on the chassis of the year manufacturer. Normally you don't see that. And there's the chassis number. Again, a little bit of light corrosion. We can take care of that. This is a good project. All the galvanizing under the arches are nice and clean. Easy peasy. Look for something like this. A little bit of corrosion on the outrigger. We can take care of that. Not a problem. Something really silly to look for are the spot welds here. Usually these back corners get really bent up and beaten up, and one of this, and there should be some spot welds down here as well, because there's a little bracket on the inside, especially in the 90s and 110. But you know, a telltale sign when somebody's been messing about with a car, you know, body panels and damage and stuff like this, you'll see all these spot welds come across here, and then all of a sudden they'll disappear. So there's one little thing to look for. Let's go and have a look at another little clue. It's often been asked, why are these rivets painted, yet these rivets are not painted? Now, there is a good reason for that. It's because when these are painted in the factory, these cappings here are painted on the rear tub, and the spot weld, they're pop riveted in. These pop rivets here hold the C-post and the B-post and the bottom sill all in place. So that's assembled as a separate item after paint shop, if you see what I mean. So a good sign that a car hasn't been painted is looking for these rivets here. There should be another one under here. However, some people who know a little bit about paint shop and Land Rovers, I drill these out and then paint the car and then put them back in again after painting. It looks really sharp, it looks nice. So there's another thing to look for. If it's got paint on there and somebody says, oh, it's never been painted, well, you can tell them differently. So if this car came into my shop and a customer wanted an honest assessment, how do you assess it? How do you be honest to the seller and to the buyer? You don't want to gyp anybody or anything like that, but you've got to be honest. You don't want a customer spending thousands and thousands of dollars on a car and finding out it's a basket case. You know, like filler covers are lots of sins and things like this, but it's our job to have a look and see what it should look like. Yeah, I mean, it looks there, but it isn't. It's covered, a lot of it's covered over. So just be aware. You know, when I was in England buying cars about 10 years ago, out of every 10 cars I looked at, there was only one worth buying. That's how bad they were. I went to see a car once, and I don't even think on eBay it was the same picture of the same car, or it was when it was brand new, because when I got to it, this was so rusty here, you could see all the wiring inside the car. The guy says, oh, it's great, it's no problems. And again, if you're over in North America and you want to buy a car from England, for example, the English people think that the chassis, because it's been patched up, is solid. That's not the same thing over here in North America. A solid chassis means it's never been welded and there's no corrosion on it. But in England, a solid chassis means it could be welded to death. In fact, many years ago we had an old Series 2A in here, and the guy brought it in for rust proofing, and I got it up and had a look at it. It had 26 patches on the chassis. There was patches on patches, and I said, so I can't rust proof that. There's nothing to rust proof. What would you want me to rust proof? So yeah. Now that's really, this video is just about corrosion and what to look for on Land Rovers. And believe me, corrosion goes hand in hand with these trucks. If it's been rust proofed, okay. If it's come from a dry climate like Spain or Morocco or somewhere like that, fine. You know, you've got a good basis to work on. But, or alternatively, if you're going to pay the bucks and find out you've got a Land Rover with a new chassis or a replacement chassis, that's okay. Let somebody else do the work, because although you can take the bodies off and do the frames and stuff like that, that is a lot of work. Now, I know you can do these things yourself, but again, just because you can doesn't mean you should. So look out for Land Rovers, because I'm going to tell you that there are so many basket cases out there that people think they're worth an awful lot of money, and really they're not.